Westeros has given us kings, dragons, wars, but a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms asks just a little bit of a different question. What if the hardest thing to do in Westeros is just being a good person? Hey guys, welcome back. It just aired last night, our new HBO show, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Episode 1. Today we're going to be breaking down the episode. There's a lot of things that share some similarities to Game of Thrones, to House of the Dragons, but in its own way, it of course stands on its own legs. It's the newest story set in George R.R. Martin's world, and already it feels vastly different from anything that we've seen before. Yes, it's in Westeros. We're so glad to be back in Westeros, but this isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't House of the Dragons. And honestly, that might be its biggest strength, is that it can stand alone by itself. Right away, right off the bat, right out the gate, Episode 1 makes something very clear. It's extremely clear. This is a smaller story, and it's a smaller story by design, where Game of Thrones opened with political intrigue, infighting, tales going on, looming war, supernatural horror behind the scenes. House of the Dragon, it dropped us straight into the story, into dynastic power struggles. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, it kind of pulls the camera back just a little differently, or it doesn't pull it back, but it pulls it way, way down. And this story lives on the road with the people, not the high lords, but the smaller people, the regular folk. It's in the taverns, campsites, the quiet conversations around the campfire. It's about survival. It's not about domination, getting to the Iron Throne. It's just about the regular Joe Schmo. The tone is slower, it's more intimate, and it's a lot more reflective on the average person. There's no rush here to shock the audience. They're not trying to throw anything into the story, upset any predisposed expectations. Instead, the episode, they ask you to just sit down with these characters, listen to the dialogue, and understand where their backstories are. So the way episode 1 actually opens, and like I said before, there's not going to be any spoilers. There's no spoiler warning here. We're not going to get into anything that's going to happen later on this season or in the coming seasons. But it opens with Sir Duncan the Tall mourning his mentor, Ser Arlan of Penetry. Dunk digs the graves. For Arlan delivers a emotional eulogy, doesn't really know the words to say, but obviously that's something that everybody would probably feel in that situation. So it's evident that the show is not focused on power or politics, but kind of on the personal bonds from person to person, because that's really what makes these relationships count, what makes the character development count. Almost instantly, the tone shifts to the show showing cuts of the swelling version of the Game of Thrones theme song. We all know the theme song from the original Game of Thrones show, and it turns into a very grounded comic moment because obviously Dunk has a little bit of a case of diarrhea under the tree. This is a stark contrast, setting the contrast from this show and its predecessors, the other two shows. This is a grounded human take that subverts typical epic fantasy tropes. So once Dunk's in that situation, obviously, he realizes that he has to get some money. The best way to get some money, go to Ashford Meadow. There's a tourney going on. With Arlan gone, there's no master to serve. He decides to travel to the great tourney at Ashford Meadow. All the great houses are going to be there. There's the opportunity to potentially earn a name for yourself, find a lord to serve under potentially consistent, stable pay, just like anyone would need in that particular moment. It's a chance also to prove himself and honor Arlan's memory by making his name as a knight. He saddles one of Arlan's horses. He begins his journey. While he's on the road, Dunk stops at a tavern. He meets a young bald boy who calls himself Egg, obviously thinking that this is maybe due to the shape of his head because he is technically bald. Ugg is mercurious, cautious. He immediately starts questioning Dunk's claim of being a true knight, and he does offer to become a squire. He's obviously a very young, intelligent boy. Dunk initially refuses to offer because he's not interested in any companions on the road, especially not one who's so young, so cheeky, but he probably does see a little bit of himself because he thinks the boy comes from Flea Bottom, and he technically was an orphan as well coming from Flea Bottom. Dunk meets a gentleman at the bar, pays in a gold dragon with the Targaryen symbol on the coin. Probably a little too much for a drink. Get some food there, hears about the tourney, sets off. Once Dunk reaches Ashford Meadow, there's riders, nobles, commoners, everyone's gathered for the tourney. He approaches the Master of Games to register himself, but he does learn there's going to be a couple problems. He's not recognized as a knight. There's no witnesses to him being knighted. Now, the book doesn't necessarily ever say, was he knighted, was he not? What I would say is the show's kind of alluding to the fact that he probably wasn't knighted. So he's stretching the truth just a little bit there. Ser Arlan's name does not carry any weight with the officials. No one remembers him. There's no credible witnesses to his knighting. There's only a bird and a tree. That's what Dunk says. And it was raining at the time. The master explains that if Dunk is not a real knight, he can't joust. And worse, if he loses, he would forfeit all his gear, his horses, which he could only ransom back technically if he had coin, which he has no coin. So from that point on, we begin to explore the camp and the courtship of the Ashford area. Dunk wanders the bustling camp there, meeting a mix of characters that we're going to meet in this episode, but also meet more in depth in the episodes coming up. First one he meets Raymond Fossaway, a timid knight who leads Dunk to his cousin, Ser Lyonel Baratheon. We meet him. Obviously, he's going to be a massive name going forward. We all know he's probably the grandfather of Baratheon from Game of Thrones, and Ser Lyonel, he's known as a laughing-storm because he does love to have a good time. He's a wealthy, jovial noble with a fondness for food, drink, loves to heckle people. Baratheon's camp gets loud, lively, there's dancing going. Dunk initially stands very awkward, menacing, tall figure there. What's he doing in the tent? But one thing about Baratheon, he does love to talk to people. They immediately hit it off. The show is letting you know Dunk is down to earth. The show is down to earth. Lionel wants to mix it up with people, and Dunk's a very easy person to like right out the gate. We don't end up actually having any sword fights, but we do have a dance-off fight, let's say. It's a character beat. In the middle of the episode is a dance battle between Sir Dunk and Ser Lyonel Baratheon. What could have been a confrontation turns into a joyous event, unexpected moment. Dunk abandons formality, truly lives in the moment, giving viewers their first sense of his genuine humanity. The scene, it's not just playful, it shows Dunk's instinctive goodness, not just as a warrior, but as a person who belongs to a noble house, yet still earns for respect in the unorthodox ways. And he's obviously still trying to get someone to give him a vouch to remember Ser Arlan. No one remembers him. He finally meets up with Sir Manfred Dondarrion, who's either the grandfather or the great-grandfather of Beric Dondarrion. He's a knight who he hopes will vouch for his knighthood, allow him to compete in the tourney. Unfortunately, Manfred does not remember Ser Arlan at all, refuses to endorse Dunk, so that leaves him without a path going forward to make the tourney. So at this moment, he's obviously feeling pretty defeated at this time, so he goes back to his camp, and there, sitting by the fire, with a fire having been made, is Egg, waiting for him. He's taking care of a bunch of stuff. He's fed, groomed the horses, started a fire, caught some fish for dinner for himself, for Dunk, cooked the fish, he's ready to go. At this point, Dunk is obviously impressed by the boy's resourcefulness, loyalty, called a ride on a lamb wagon, found Dunk, set up his camp for him, so he considers his earlier rejection of allowing Egg to be a squire. He tells him that he will accept him as his squire, but only if Dunk can find a way to compete in the tourney. So it's obviously something that they're both going to have to do to make sure that Dunk makes it in, for Dunk to be considered a knight, and for Egg to be considered his squire. They need to find a way to get him in that tourney. So it's a conditional pact that sets up the pact for their partnership going forward. Now, the way this season ends with the shooting star, a quiet, symbolic moment. Dunk and Egg settle beside the fire. A shooting star streaks across the night sky. Egg tells Dunk that he interprets that as a sign of good luck for whoever sees it. They both saw it. Dunk kind of sits there, reflects on it for one moment. It's simple, but it's poignant. It encapsulates the serious theme of hope, belonging, When Egg asked for him to set up a tent for him, he said that he didn't have a tent. He'd rather sleep under the stars. So technically, Dunk's probably the only knight at the tourney that actually saw the shooting star, because every other knight that night was sleeping in a pavilion. So technically, it kind of worked out for them that they didn't have all that stuff. The shooting star, not to get into spoilers, but obviously this show's going somewhere. So there's going to be some luck. There's going to be some good fortune for Dunk, for Egg going forward. So just some of the key things that happen within episode 1. Dunk buries his mentor, sets out to find his own way, make his way within Westeros. He meets Egg, spirited young boy, wants to tag along with him, wants to be a squire, thinking he's a knight. Dunk fails to prove his knighthood at the Ashford tourney. He has the memorable dance where he bonds with Ser Lyonel Baratheon, shows the character depth, shows he can rub shoulders with these lords, and they seem to kind of gravitate towards him because he's just a very likable, honest person. Dunk's attempt to get a noble to vouch for him fails. Dondarrion does not remember him. His father does not remember him. Egg proves his worth. They begin that tentative partnership going forward, which will continue to develop in the episodes, in the seasons, obviously, going forward. The shooting star crosses across the sky. The episode ends on a hopeful note for both characters. So unlike Game of Thrones, what kind of separates the end of this season, because that's where this episode ended. Unlike Game of Thrones, unlike House of the Dragon, episode 1 deliberately avoids epic battles, major political stakes. We all know the way that episode 1 ended in the initial Game of Thrones show. This is going to be focusing more on characters, humility, small moments of humility, things that make people people, and what makes someone honorable. It's going to be a major theme going forward. It's a grounded tale where honor and friendship matter more than crowns or conquest going forward. So guys, that's just our initial breakdown of episode 1. We have a couple more episodes coming up. I think there's 6 in total this season. I think this is the longest episode. They'll be bouncing around 30 to 40 minutes every single episode. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below. What are your thoughts on the episode? Let me know, and thanks for watching.